about them censoring the president of the United States, Donald Trump.
He has lost his privileges and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
So
He
how
has-
do,
he
how
has-
do you say that? Tell me you've never fully read the Constitution without actually saying it. What she's doing is framing something that is at its core anti-constitutional, and she's framing it as normal procedure.
Right. The problem, as you well know, is that everybody in the press buys that.
Yes.
And look, she I guess passed the bar late, or eventually. But she did pass the bar. She was Attorney General of the state of California, which means I'm guessing you had to read the beginning of the Constitution or the Bill of Rights and the core principle in it, which is that the freedom of speech isn't about a privilege that is conferred to people. It is a natural right that the state recognizes exists, and the state's only role is to be restrained by that statute, right, or by that rule. And this, it's a fundamental misunderstanding that seems to be pervasive now among people in media, people in academia. Tim Walz, the other, he also said that there's no constitutional right to misinformation, which is totally incorrect.
Well, let me play that for you. Here he is. I'll play that. Got it right here, queued up.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
That's again 100% incorrect. There's no guarantee of free speech unless it's speech that serves the masters. That's
Right, well, or hate speech, right? I mean, that's totally wrong too. And people may feel a certain way about that, but that's the American system. It's always been. And we're different from the rest of the world in that way. That's something we've always been kind of proud of, is that we have this very, very unique, supercharged protection for freedom of speech. And how these prominent politicians could not know that is like kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yes, I think they know it, but they don't care. And I think most Americans don't know it, but I think those people have to know it because they have legal advisors, and I'm sure their legal advisors know it, but they know that it's also the way the wind is blowing is that the people who vote Democrat want to be able to censor people, right? And what people don't realize is that the Constitution doesn't give you the right to free speech. What the Constitution does is it just puts down on paper that you have that right. It documents that you inherently have that right. And it's not a privilege. That's how these two people are speaking about it, that freedom of speech is a privilege that the government grants you and that the government can take away. It's not. It's a right. It's not even granted to you by the Constitution. It's just documented in the Constitution that you have it. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's exactly the way the First Amendment is written. And the mistake that they make is exactly the same mistake that Ketanji Brown Jackson made in the Supreme Court hearing for Murthy v. Missouri, where she complained that the lawsuit or the complaint was viewed the First Amendment in a way that was so that the First Amendment was hamstringing the government, not understanding that the First Amendment is explicitly designed to hamstring the government. That's what it's for. It's to keep the government out of the truth deciding business. And you're right. The First Amendment, all it does is it recognizes something that is inherently true, that we're born free people with our own thoughts, and it formalizes the idea that the government's role is to stay